Unlimited water power. Sort of. Yo, word is up, everybody. Even with unlimited power, I was fighting for my life in this tournament. Oh boy. So let's go over my deck. It was a Majasea Ramp deck. Obviously, Majasea Ramp decks aren't that great. I know that going into it, I legitimately only played this deck to play Aphros and have some fun. Doesn't mean I wasn't trying to win, and I was fighting for my life with this deck, as I just mentioned. It was really tough. Game 1, I played against Jack. Has the most first place finishes in Elestral tournaments out of everybody, bar none. So that was my game 1. Really difficult. Game 2, Curry Bro, also someone who's won Elestral tournaments before. I was fighting for my life, I'll have you know. But these games are great. They're fantastic. I really enjoyed the matches. We'll get into that after. I want to talk about the deck first. I'll show you the matches, and I'll talk about it a little bit more at the end. Without further ado, let's just jump over into the deck, because that's probably what you want to see first. So, as I mentioned, Majasea Ramp deck. First thing we're trying to do is get a Majesea in play. We're going to then empower that Majesea with a Bag of Winds and a Trident of Poseidon, so that our opponent cannot target Majesea with Celestial effects, cast counter runes, or target Majesea with basically any runes, specifically invoke runes so they can't Earthquake Majesea. In theory, we can do that in turn 1 if we play Tadpuff with its special cast ability, expend 1 water, special cast Tadpuff with water, cast Poseidon behind it, Nexus from Poseidon to Tadpuff, and then ascend into Majesea or Glauby. Effectively, Glauby makes it so we have 5 copies of Majesea, because those are the only cards that we can't search in the deck that are part of this 5-card combo. The rest of the deck is 100% trying to facilitate getting a Majesea into play over the course of 1 turn, empowered with all the artifacts we can find, and praying it sticks. Now, when Majesea can't be targeted by Elestrals, invoke runes, or counter runes, it has 16 attack roughly because of all the water spirits in play. You're looking at effectively you win the game if your opponent can't out the cards. Your opponent generally is looking for an Equalinx to pop Poseidon or pop Bag of Wind so they can go Earthquake or Shield. Or they're looking for a P-Gust so that they can, again, pop back row, a Thunderstorm to pop one in the back row to kind of open up a key point of attack to get rid of Majesea. Or the backup for like Water Wind decks is play Sorlet and Vertaqua at the same time. Sorlet Majesea into defense and Sorlet doesn't target. And then Vertaqua punch into it to win the game that way. So there are some weak points, but let's go into the rest of the deck quick. We have our Majesea combo that we're getting set up. Again, Majesea, Tadpuff, Trident Poseidon, Bag of Winds, Poseidon. That's the 5-card God opening hand. And the rest of the deck is just trying to facilitate finding that combo and setting it up. We have 2 Peliquarius to try and find Tadpuff. So that way we can play Peliquarius turn 1 if we don't have Tadpuff and we have other pieces. A Festus to find out both Bag of Winds and Trident Poseidon. A Festus is kind of basically a 4th copy here of both Trident and Bag of Winds. So we run 2 Festus over running 3 of any of the other artifacts, because effectively we play a Festus, maybe on 2 fire, disenchant 1, find the piece we need, or one of the 2 pieces, artifacts that we need, Poseidon or Bag of Winds, then disenchant Hephaestus again on the next turn, get the other piece, go into Majesea combo. In order to find Hephaestus, we can use Elechick. So if turn 1, again, we don't have combo turn 1, which is more likely than not, Elechick to find Hephaestus, maybe you already have Hephaestus, Elechick to find Poseidon. Again, all these cards are facilitating finding the 5 pieces we need to play Majesea and just Exodia it out and just make it this giant unstoppable force. And then we have some water consistency with Aphros. Again, I want to play my Stellar Aphros, so I'm running 3 Aphros. It goes really, really well with Poseidon, allowing you to draw 2 every turn. Or you can also play Aphros, Bag of Winds, and Poseidon, allowing you to have a 6 defense body that can't be Earthquaked or Laurels, that will draw you 2 additional cards every turn, which is a very powerful draw engine. We have Foamy to either find the Aphros, so if we need to find more consistency pieces, float into another Foamy, or float into, say, Sluggle or Tadpuff to then ascend into Majesea Glauby combo. And a 1 of Zephyrog to maybe punch our opponent directly in a last-ditch scenario to try to win the game. Maybe they're walled up and I can't get through. I can't reliably get Majesea out, but maybe I can sneak a Zephyrog into play because they're waiting for the Majesea. It's a 1 of Zephyrog to hopefully sneak out a little bit of a cheeky punch in the face, maybe remove an Invoke rune, get like a Trident Lock set up with Zephyrog, remove the Earthquakes from the hand, stuff like that. 1 Rise from the Ashes to hit Sluggle with, maybe to hit a Majesea if Majesea gets outed. It's a one of just to maybe get use out of. And then our counter rune / removal package is pretty light because we only, with the full combo, have 1 rune space available. Poseidon takes up 1, Trident takes up 2, Bag takes up 3, leaving us with 1 open space for a counter rune, so we can't run that many. So we have Altar, because we have so many Divine Runes. It's a great combination with that. It's great with Aphros to try to get spirits off Aphros if he's getting Earthquake, stuff like that. And Gorgon's Gaze, because Gorgon's Gaze, 2 Earthquake for potential get rid of something troublesome, like a Foamy that they have in play or something, so I can start punching in actually for damage with Majesea. Because again, Majesea will just run into 1 cost, then they'll play another 1 cost, and run to 1 cost, and they can stall out really, really well. So we have an Earthquake to potentially stop the stall or protect something like Aphros after we play it or whatnot. And then the Sluggle is just for Foamy searching. I'd probably cut the Sluggle and put Ambrosia in instead, because I find that the issue with my Water Spirits is they're on board, not in the Underworld. So I can have full combo out, I can play Sluggle, and I can recover 0 because all the Water Spirits are on board pretty much. So I'll probably cut the Sluggles going forward, but they're there because 1 Sluggle is good off of Foamy. If you're, Majesea just gets outed perhaps, play a Foamy, go into Sluggle, maybe try to get back in the combo. So 1 is good. I'd probably cut 1 for Ambrosia though. The Spirit deck is really, really tight. So we have 10 Leviathan, which I would like to run more Water Spirits, but we need Spirits for everything else. I have 2 Zaptors for the Elechick. You could maybe go to 1 Zaptor and add an additional water. It's a tough call. 2 Vipyro to turn the Hephaestus into artifact searches. 4 Lycris, so we can potentially get off both Bag of Winds. If we use the first one on an Aphros, we can stall, get the second one for Hephaestus. Or maybe we use 1 Lycris for a Peliquarius early, and we only have enough space to get another bag out. So we run 4 just for the option to get 2 bags or a Peliquarius plus a bag. And then 2 Tyratlis for an Earthquake. Ideally, we don't draw more than 1 Earthquake in a game because we don't have the Earth Spirits for it. That's the deck. Let's jump into the games, and I'll talk to you a bit more about the deck at the end of the game. So enjoy the matches, and see you soon. Alright, so we're going to jump into game 1 here. Now, I start off the bat with a really bad spot. I roll a nat 1 to go first, so Jack is going first here. He's going to play Elechick to find Zeus. My opening hand, I do have the Majesea, Poseidon, Tadpuff, and Bag of Winds ready to go. So if I went first, I could have played Majesea, Bag of Winds, and stalled out from there trying to find Trident. I draw into Hephaestus here, so that's pretty good. I can find a Trident. He does have 3 back row, which means even going for this combo, it's going to be risky because if any of those are Gorgons or PTA, he can stop my combo or destroy Majesea off the bat. But unfortunately, my deck does one thing, so I do have to go for it. I start with that Tadpuff effect to expend 1 to special cast it with 1 water, right into Poseidon. He lets both of those go. He lets the Poseidon Nexus go. I play Poseidon on 3 because I'm playing a little conservative with it because I don't have enough Water Spirits to go super long. And right here is where he hits the Gorgons and the Tadpuff to prevent me from ascending to Majesea before I declare the Ascension. I don't have much else going on my hand here, so I Earthquake the Elechick, hoping it's its only Elestral. I know whatever he's got is going to be able to attack over it. I set 1 as a potential bluff. And then he knows I have generally a Poseidon hand, and a Trident Poseidon hand, and a Majesea in hand, and then that 1 card that he doesn't know. He just plays a Rabbit. 2 is more than 1. That Rabbit's going to let him search for 3 cards and beat over Tadpuff. But he doesn't even worry about that because he knows I have limited cards in hand. He just Earthquakes the Tadpuff, knowing that I'm less likely to have an Celestial to counter the Ash Rabbit against, and hits me for the 1 to start damage. I draw here. I drew into a Sluggle, which is a decent draw. I go to use my last Hephaestus to search out my second Trident. Again, I have a Bag of Winds in hand. Now I have 2 Tridents in hand. I play Sluggle, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm just going to have to go Sluggle on the attack here with a Trident. I'll recover some spirits, use those spirits to play Trident behind it. I get exactly 3 water. It's what I have in my Underworld, which is perfect. And I go for the Trident play. It's basically the only thing I have to work with right now. And with Trident on the chain link 1, he's going to chain a Tsunami to put his Rabbit into defense here, protecting his Rabbit Tsunami before Trident can stop him from being able to cast counter runes. Really, really frustrating play there, but hey, it's a good play. He knows he's not going to be able to cast it in a moment, so he casts it before Trident lands. I can't hit over the Rabbit now, and now he can potentially re-enchant it just to get some spirits back. He's going to be able to play his Zeus, which he searched out with any other Elestral, and it happens to be a Toxin, which means I'm going to take a damage. He's going to be able to play Zeus behind it, get rid of my Sluggle, and my position's even worse now. Again, my hand is pretty limited. I have another Trident in hand, I have Majesea in hand, and I have a Bag of Winds in hand. So it's, or maybe one of those is bluff face down. I forget what I place face down here. There's not much I can do. There's the Zeus on 3. And he's going to just start chipping away for even more damage with this board state. And I need to find another Elestral ASAP to try to get board presence. I can drop another Elestral and go into Trident Poseidon combo again. If I can get set up, it's like any Elestral here will help. Ideally, I draw an Elechick. Which, spoiler alert, I will draw the Elechick. He's going to turn everything to attack position and start chipping away here. But yeah, I'm in a bad spot. Again, going second with this deck really puts you on the back foot because of those counter rune answers to the combo. I lose a bunch of spirits here. That's just how it goes. And then I get chipped for 1 by Astrabbit. He's only got 1 face down, which means I might be able to get some advantage here. I draw an Elechick, another great top deck. In my head, I'm going to go Elechick, and then I'm going to play Trident, and then I'm going to play Bag on this Elechick and just try to win off the Elechick. But Jack's got more plans for me. I grab another Poseidon. I'm out of fire. I can't grab the other Hephaestus. Maybe I need the other Poseidon. In the response window to the search, he's going to Nexus with Altar to put my Elechick into defense, get another search off Rabbit, and completely shut down the plan I had of going Trident over Elechick and then Bag of Winds, which would have stopped Elechick from being targeted by Zeus. Would have allowed me to start attacking over things. Thunder Nexus doesn't have really any way to get over a 6 attack Elestral besides turning it to defense or using Zeus to punch over it. So it would have been a good plan, but that plan is foiled. He plays a water misenchant Toxin to get past potential tsunamis, which I don't have in this deck. He gets over the Elechick, and I'm basically out of luck now. He's going to ping me for 1, ping me for 2, off Rabbit, and I go to 4. There's not much I can go left in this game, but I happen to get another awesome top deck. It's a Tadpuff. So I go special cast Tadpuff, right? I'm thinking, okay, get Majesea out here and pray that I can stick this Majesea because I'm not going to have enough spirits to get Bag of Winds on it. It's just going to have to stick. I got 1 spirit left in my spirit deck after the Ascension and hope that I can just punch him twice and he's out of counter runes and invokes and basically answers. Which is not the case. He's got a Poison-Tipped Arrow cast off the Rabbit 2nd Spirit. He has 7 spirits left in his spirit deck here. So even if I was able to get another couple spirits on this Majesea through some Nexus shenanigans, I'd be just short of doing enough damage to stop the Poison-Tipped Arrow from being able to trigger at the end of turn and expend enough spirits to destroy Majesea. So here I end up punching him over the Toxin for 2 damage. He expends 3 to destroy Majesea, putting him at 2 spirits and allowing him to just attack me to win the game. The Poseidon misenchant into Lycaris was just like, I know I'm dead to anything here. So, or rather, I knew I already lost the game because I can't do enough damage. And just he's going to re-enchant Toxin, the Stellar Toxin here, to basically win the game. And that's that. Again, it's really difficult going second with this deck just because you want to try to get Majesea out turn 1 with some protection. And there's so many ways to just interact with that combo that going second wasn't good enough. But I was able to get close. I was still able to get the Majesea out, just not soon enough. Jack played super well here. I got some lucky top decks, but going on to game 2, let's see what happens. Alright, so we're going into game 2. Game 1, Thunder Nexus didn't do so hot, but we're going right into the next top meta deck in Earth Beatdown against Curry Bro, another really strong player. My first 2 games of this tournament were just stacked. So I'm actually going to get to go first this game, and Curry Bro's going to start it off with a mulligan. He's going to show me his hand here that he started with, and oh boy, was it a rough starting hand if he had to play it. Thankfully, there's mulligan rule. So we had, I think, double Demeter, Ambrosia, you'll see right in a second, 2 Ambrosia. That's his Stellar Ambrosia from his last tournament win, and a shield. I wish he kept that. That would have been great for me. I would have started punching in real hard. But he mulliganed here. And I'm going to start off with a pretty strong hand. I have Aphros and Poseidon in my opening hand and a Bag of Winds. I don't recall what the other two cards were, but this is a pretty strong opening hand on the play because now I can just turbo out a bunch of draw. So I play Aphros. Aphros effect, I can Nexus 2 to Aphros. There's going to be no responses because he's going second. And draw 2 cards. And I already have the Bag of Winds in my hand. I'm going to draw Hephaestus here. And I think a Gorgons. But I'm going to draw 2 cards here. One's Hephaestus. I have the Bag of Winds already in my hand. So I'm going to Bag of Winds this Aphros. And now I have a 6 defense. Can't be targeted by Invoke Runes. Pretty good against Earth. It can't get outed basically by anything he has unless he has exactly Demeter and an Elestral that is either Viserys or Equal Links in hand. If it's an Equal Links, I'm already out of luck. So I just have to dodge a Demeter plus Viserys, which isn't too out of the question here. I play my Hephaestus to go grab Trident and Poseidon. I gotta start collecting my pieces. I still need to go find a Majesea or Globby, and I need to get set up. I play a face down. I believe that's a Gorgon's Gaze. I don't recall. We'll find out in a moment. And he's gonna start his turn off with an Astrabbit in defense. So it's good for me. I know he's not going to be able to attack this turn. He is going to search the top of his deck for a card. But I know I have a pretty bulky board that's going to generate so much card advantage over the course of this game. He's going to set 1 and pass. I'll start my turn with my draw and immediately go and draw 2 off the Aphros. I accidentally picked up an extra spirit by mistake when I was doing my Nexus. But yeah, 2 to Aphros. Draw 2 cards. It is just an insane engine, right? Aphros drawing 2 with protection. So Nexus 1 from Poseidon, send 2 back to Poseidon, keep my spirits from being too vulnerable on that Aphros, and just generate lots of value. Again, super defensive Aphros. I do think I make a misplay by not using Hephaestus first, which I was like, oh, I forgot. I needed to make space with Hephaestus and go search for something first. That could have impacted my draws. It would have been a different game. I grabbed my other Bag of Winds because I drew a Trident of Poseidon. So I'm like, cool, let me go grab my other bag and set up for Majesea here. So I have so many cards in my hand right now. I think I have like 8 cards, like something crazy. There's an Altar I drew, right? So I'm going to Altar this rabbit into attack position because I'm thinking like, okay, I'm going to set up to turn this Astrabbit attack position and just punch over it with the Majesea. Then I'm going to play off a Tadpuff in my hand. But I misplayed here. I should have played the Tadpuff first. I completely forgot to. I meant to play Tadpuff, Altar to Tadpuff, and with so many cards in my hand, I'm like thinking through all my options. I didn't want to take too long, and I misplayed. I should have Altar to Tadpuff, and I forgot to because I already used Poseidon's Nexus for Aphros' draw effect. Complete misplay on my part, so now I'm like, okay, what do I do, what do I do, what do I do? I still have a normal Ascension, but it's either I can lose my Aphros with my Bag of Winds, which is a huge engine that he can't get over right now, or try to do something else. So I end up just throwing my Earthquake out to shoot this Astrabbit so I can at least punch in for some damage. And I'm going to risk Aphros here because I know I made the mistake. I need to start getting pressure on, and I don't have the ability to get that pressure on too much here. So it's just like, okay, let me just punch for a bunch of damage. Now I believe this is the Gorgons that's set, and hope I can get, you know, basically keep this board to my next turn so I can ascend into Majesea and drop the combo Poseidon, Trident Poseidon, etc. Hopefully. He plays Viserys. I'm like, okay, that's part of the Demeter Viserys that I'm scared of, but I have counter runes right now for it. So I'm not too afraid anymore of that kind of play. He plays another 2 face downs, which is a little threatening because that's more options to disrupt my Majesea play. I Gorgons the attack to keep my Aphros alive when I use spirits from board. And I believe I use a Zaptor from my spirit deck as well because I need to make sure that I have some board presence that I want to keep. And the Zaptor's not doing anything anymore for the rest of this game because I have all the pieces I need. I don't need the Elechick searches. So I believe I'm down to 4 spirits here. Just enough to get my, or maybe it was 5. But I have just enough to get Majesea out and go to 0. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to push my spirit over to Tadpuff to draw 1. And I'm hedging my bet, so if he has Gorgons and Gorgon's one of my 2 Elestrals, I'll be able to ascend on top of the other one. That's kind of the best board state I have right now, which is get them both ready for Majesea. If he declares Gorgons here, well, then I can just send over Tadpuff. If he declares Gorgons on Tadpuff, well, I send over Aphros. So, again, the deck is Majesea. I gotta get Majesea out. He doesn't have any response anyway, so I drop the Majesea into play over the Tadpuff, which is more ideal, given that my Aphros is loaded up with an artifact. And now the Gorgons hits. So, he hits the Gorgons and the Majesea, so I can't attack over the Viserys. There's nothing I can do about that. It's unfortunate, because now that Viserys can potentially attack back, I can still put my Aphros into defense here, but it's not going to matter in a moment. So I'm like, alright, well, I might as well just load up. I have the combo, drop it all and get ready, because Gorgons doesn't stop empowering. Bag of Winds on Majesea, Trident of Poseidon on Majesea. I still have a full grip of cards. Like, this Aphros gave me so much card advantage. It's crazy what it can do when it's not interrupted. Aphros to defense, it can survive a Viserys. If he has a second Viserys, it can survive that. He can't Earthquake. He can't counter rune me. He's got basically no way to answer me except for Demeter. Foreshadowing. So he draws, and incoming a Rummagem, and that is like the worst thing I can think of right now, because I know he's got Equal Links. I'm on a clock to win the game. That Equal Links can start ripping apart my board. He gets rid of my bags. He can Earthquake. He gets rid of my Trident. He can Shield. The Equal Links is bad, but he doesn't have a Demeter yet. And then he just flips over his bluff, which was a Demeter this entire time. And instantly this game goes from I'm crushing it, I'm going to win in 2 turns, to I'm on the back foot, because now I know that he can get over my Aphros, and he's got an Equal Links to start picking away at my protection on Majesea. Oh no. But I do have Gorgon's Gaze in hand, so that's going to come into a relevant play in a moment. But the core thing of note here is he's got an Equal Links. I don't have spirits that aren't already protecting this Majesea. So that Gorgons has to protect my artifacts, but in order to cast it, I'm going to have to use spirits from an artifact to cast it. If he goes after Bag of Winds, he has Earthquake in hand. If he goes after Trident, he has Shields face down. I run over the Viserys, deal 2 damage with my Majesea, pass turn, and I'm ready for this Equal Links. He's going to drop it. He's going to drop it in defense, which means he doesn't, he's not really, he doesn't think he's going to get through this Majesea this turn, perhaps. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe he doesn't have the Earthquake and he's just trying to pick away, and that's a Shield face down. So I have a really tough decision that I think on for literally 4 minutes before I make the decision of when he targets Bag of Winds with Equal Links. Do I Gorgons it or let it go? And I end up Gorgonsing it, because I felt it's more likely that that face down is not a shield than he has an Earthquake in hand. Just arbitrary, like, if that's a Gorgons in face down, Gorgons can't do anything to Majesea anymore. It's got to be a shield. He could have Earthquake or Laurels. He might run more of those in his deck than I can think of, so I saved the Bag of Winds and start attacking over the Equal Links, which it goes through. So I'm like, okay, cool, I made the right decision. And after the game, I asked Kriro, and he said that yes, he had the Earthquake in his hand. He was hoping the Earthquake would get rid of Majesea, and he had the defense position as hedging his bets in case it doesn't break it. He's gonna Ambrosia here to get back a Thunder Spirit, which is relevant because he's about to play a Rabbit with that Thunder Spirit. And off that Rabbit, unfortunately, he gets a Shield of Achilles. So he sets that Shield of Achilles face down. I have nothing I can do with my turn. I don't run Ambrosia. I'm not going to be able to cast a Sluggle here. There's nothing I can do except run into the shield and hope it's not a shield. Unfortunately, it was that shield. So that is game 2. I lose it again, just barely. He ends with, I believe, 2 spirits left. That Ash Rabbit saved his butt. That Ambrosia allowed him to get the Ash Rabbit out, which also helped. So we're going to move on to game 3 now, where I think I turned things around. Alright, so we're on to game 3 now. So we went kind of the gambit of the meta, you know, Thunder Nexus, close game, Earth Beaters, close game. My opponent here rolled a nat 20, which is going to be kind of a pattern for the rest of my games. I'm pretty much going to go second the next few games. Unfortunate. Again, my deck really struggles going second. My opponent sets 2 expense to draw at the start. My hand's not great, but I have enough to start going with an Aphros play, and I really wanted to play my Stellar Aphros this game, so that's what I'm doing this game. I figured I'm already 0-2. I don't really care too much if I start losing games here, because it's going to be almost impossible to go 3-2 from here to even get a possible shot at top cut, so I'm just going to have fun here. And I opened with Festus, Aphros in hand, and Poseidon, I think, were the 3 cards. And then I had an Altar and Earthquake, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was my opening hand. So I'm going to start by searching out this Trident Poseidon off of Festus, remembering to search first before I draw cards with Aphros, just general pattern. So drop that Poseidon into play. I think I drop it with 4. I hesitate for a second with 3, but I decide ultimately I'm going to play it with 4 and go full out for these Aphros plays, because I'm here to play Stellar Aphros. So there's my boy, my Stellar Aphros. I love him. I cast him. I'm going to go to Nexus with his ability. The Nexus is good. However, my opponent here, Jameson, decides to Gorgon's Gaze the draw, which is going to be another common theme for this specific match. My opponent knows that card advantage is huge, and he's going to keep me off the card advantage as much as possible while letting me load up as many spirits as possible to my Aphros to prevent me from actually being able to do anything with it, and it'll do a lot of damage to me. So I'm going to set, I believe, Altar here, and I believe I set my Trident. I don't remember exactly what my other card was. It might have been another Altar. I know I played 2 Altars this game, but I set 2 and passed. There's not much else I can do. And they drop a Necrof, which I'm like, okay, I can deal with the Necrof. I have an Altar face down. I can turn it to defense. Fair enough. So there's my protection for my Aphros at least. He's going to set a 3rd card and go for the attack onto my Aphros. I obviously play my Altar, as I just mentioned, to put it into defense, stop the attack before it can happen. I'm going to Nexus a little weirdly here. I believe I Nexus back. I believe I Nexus 1 more to Aphros instead of away from Aphros. And this is just loading up Aphros or spirits for, hopefully what I can do here is if I Nexus 2 from Aphros, I still have enough spirits to then ascend it into a Glauby or Majesea if I draw them and use the effect. So I start my turn off, Hephaestus' ability, search for Bag of Winds, I believe. Or I may have just drawn Bag of Winds. No, yeah, I search Bag of Winds here. And I'm going to get ready to use Aphros' ability again because, again, I want to get those draws. Those draws are pretty important. It's the engine of my deck, and he's going to Gorgons after Nexus again. So I Nexus back to Poseidon, he Gorgons after the Nexus. I don't get my draws again. I can't attack with this Aphros over that Necrof now, and I'm like, well, I got no other way to beat over this Necrof. I got to figure something out. I believe I end up burning my Earthquake on this Necrof because I don't want my opponent to get to 2 Elestrals on board in the next turn when I only have another Altar of the Stars face down. So Earthquake Necrof, kind of upsetting. I would have liked to be able to attack into it to remove it. And I pass turn there, I believe. Or no. I Bag of Winds my Aphros first because, yeah, I need to protect this Aphros. I have, you know, Altar face down so I can work around another Elestial dropping down. And I go to defense just in case, protecting from another possible Necrof. Just all around playing defensively so this Aphros doesn't get outed because it's currently my engine. And I kind of give the straight up, like, I have an Altar face down. I misenchant a Hephaestus. So that's my second Hephaestus. I misenchant with the Thunder Spirit just because I only run the 2 fire, and I'm going to use that for my Altar play if I have to. Unfortunately, it's a super telegraphed play there, right? I play Hephaestus misenchanted. He knows I have a Nexus card. He's probably knows that's an Altar. He plays Nectar of the Gods to draw 2 against me. Again, he's getting his card advantage. He's stopping my card advantage. It's a little frustrating. It is good, though, for getting into my Majesea eventually that he's burning all these Gorgon's Gazes early. As long as he's not running Poison Tipped Arrow, I should be able to get a pretty free ascension on Majesea here, if I can draw it. That's the big part of this game right now, is I'm not drawing the final pieces of my combo. I'm trying to set up for them, but they're just not coming. And my opponent's not having any luck either. He gets a Kinleo, and I'm like, oh, well, that's going to be game over. He's going to apply like Volcanic Forge here, or Hephaestus, Nexus, and blow up my Aphros. Doesn't have it. Which is like, thank goodness, now I can get back into the draw game. And he tries the Gorgons here, but he forgets Bag of Winds prevents all runes from targeting, which is a huge, like, finally I get my card advantage off the Aphros. I get to see some knowledge. I know he has his third Gorgon's Gaze face down now. It is super relevant. I'm going to use my Altar of the Stars here to put my Aphros into attack position because I clogged up my board too much. That's a big issue with this deck, is just clogging up the board. You have so many runes that need to stay continuously on the board that I had no other way to get rid of this Hephaestus efficiently, so I figured I'll Altar to Aphros. If my opponent does some shenanigans I'm not thinking of right now, I can still turn it back to defense if I need to, so on and so forth. So I go Aphros attack position, and I'm going to give it, try to Poseidon because I'm running out of gas. I need to figure out something. I can't let the Kinleo stay. I really need to make sure I get into for this attack and get rid of that Kinleo, because any Elestral, any rune is going to ruin my day. And then I followed up with a Misenchanted Elechick because I'm out of Thunder Spirits. But now I have two options to get over this Kinleo. He had no response to the Trident Poseidon to lock down counter runes, so I get to attack with both of my cards pretty much with no response and play one face down for protection. Bear in mind, I believe I'm at 4 spirits here, maybe 5, and he's playing fire, so I'm super cognizant that if I go below 3 spirits, I lose to Eruption. So from the rest of this game on, I'm playing super conservatively with my spirit deck. I can't really play the aggressive, like, drop a bunch of stuff, because I know if I extend past 3 spirits, he's going to just drop an Eruption on me and I'll probably lose the game. That's what I'm most afraid of here. He's going to cast a card. He's taking his damage from the Aphros. Obviously, Aphros just hit for 4. So now I'm in a good spot, but if he gets a Necruff, I'm going to be in a rough spot. Basically, if he gets anything to out my Aphros, which is currently protecting everything on my board, I'm in danger. He plays an Ambrosia to start recovering spirits. I can't do anything about that. I mean, yeah, he can't target with invokes, but he certainly can cast them. And he's going to go back up. I think he gets up to 8 here, where I'm again at like 4. The big other part of this deck is you just put so much spirits into play. After the Ambrosia, he's going to cast a Warmite, and that's not what I want to see. So he's going to Warmite my Aphros. He's planning on attacking over the Aphros. Thankfully, my face down is a Gorgon's Gaze. Stop that attack from happening. Technically, I could have also stopped the attack reduction from happening, but last possible minute, I figured it's safest, and I have to use spirits on board. Again, I'm running out of spirits in my deck. If I use spirits in my deck, I'm going to get Eruption, so spirits on board to cast my cards. It's my only plays without getting Eruption burned. And I draw Zephyrog here, which is pretty interesting. So I figured, let me get a Zephyrog into play properly enchanted. To do so, I drop 1 spirit from Aphros to Poseidon using Aphros' ability, draw a card, and then I'm going to use Poseidon to Nexus over to Elechick in order to get a water onto it. And then I'm going to send into Zephyrog, and I figured that Zephyrog will let me check for the Eruption in hand. If he already set Eruption, well, I'm dead anyway, but this puts me exactly 3 spirits. I have 2 Elestrals with 4 attacking to play, and I have no gas. So these 2 Elestrals have to win me the rest of the game. It's going to be Aphros over the Warmite. He can't respond again because of Trident Lock. And then it's going to be Zephyrog for 3 directly at his face to rip whatever he's got left in his hand. Which surprised me, it was a Tadpuff. So I said, get rid of that Tadpuff, and then I realized, okay, he's playing Krakatuga. I got rid of Tadpuff. That helps. He definitely has Eruption then somewhere. If they're face down, I'm a dead man if I go any lower in my spirits. So it comes down to this last draw, which was a Volcanic Forge. And that will be the end of that game. Just kind of barely squeezed out the victory. He showed me some of his face downs here. I think it's Tsunami, Gorgons, and a Shield. All of which wouldn't have helped. I played around the Eruption. He couldn't find any other Lestrals. That last turn, if he found a Warmite there, I probably lose. Or at least it would have been a little bit tighter. I would have had to basically, if he pulled the Necruff, I lost. Anything else I can kind of potentially get over slowly, but that's game 3. I picked up my first win of the tournament, and we're going to move on to game 4. I still have a shot at top cut, just barely. Moving on to game 4. Alright, on to game 4. We're going basically back against Earth Beaters. My opponent rolled a nat 20 to go first. He's going first. Plays that Ash Trap it off the rip. Pretty straightforward for turn 1. Sets 2. And I believe passes from there? Maybe. Yep, he doesn't pass from there. My bad. So he pays a bag of wins on the rabbit. That's a 7 defense rabbit that can't be invoked out. That's pretty rough. My starting hand here wasn't the greatest, but it's consistent tools, right? So we can use Elechick here to search out my Hephaestus. To start searching out my other item, my artifacts, etc., which is a good start. I kind of shortcut, search Hephaestus, put him into play right away so I don't have to shuffle my deck, and start searching for my next artifact, which is a Trident of Poseidon. Now, both my Trident of Poseidons were actually on top of my deck there if I didn't shuffle, which could have been a really awkward draw. Thankfully, Hephaestus lets me shuffle after search, so less awkward. I'm going to set one here. Not much else I can do. That rabbit's huge. He's got back row. So I'm going to end up passing turn here. I mean, what else could I do? I don't have Earthquake. I don't have double Trident to get over rabbit. Isn't worth it. And he's going to play his Elechick back. I don't want him to have Elechick because I'm currently thinking, okay, he's probably playing Thunder Nexus. I believe, though, he's playing an Earth variant because he ends up pulling out a Viserys and Rummagem. But at the time, I'm thinking, okay, he's playing Thunder Nexus. He's going to start battling off with Zeus. I can't let him do that. So it basically Gorgon's here to prevent him from searching, prevent him from attacking my Elechick. Going into my turn 2 now. I'm going to go crack my Hephaestus, search for my bag of wins. So now I have Trident of Poseidon, bag of wins, and I believe I just drew my Poseidon for this turn as well. The reason I didn't go for Poseidon first off of Elechick is because Hephaestus has more utility at deck thinning. So I want to be able to pull out all the stuff that I need first. And then Poseidon is kind of a bonus. Like if I can get Majesea with bag of wins on it, that's usually good enough. So Poseidon I can play a little bit slower on. I load up this Poseidon on 4, go for Aphros play here to try to get my engine going. The Aphros cast was good. And then I go to Nexus 2 to Elechick. Originally in my mind I'm like, oh, I'll play Elechick and then I'll bag of wins and Trident Elechick right now and just start going for just big haymakers. But then I stopped after the Nexus and realized, oh, if I do that, I'm never getting over this rabbit like efficiently because it's so massive. So it's like, okay, I gotta stop. Okay, I can't do that. But now I'm already at a point where I already put the spirits on Elechick. What am I gonna do? I think for a moment, like, all right, Elechick into Elechick. I just have to start removing stuff. I can't let him sit this Elechick when he might get a Zeus or something and run over my Aphros. So let's just start with that. In the end, I don't think it mattered here because he Earthquaked my Aphros anyway. So trying to protect the Aphros there didn't help. It would have been protected because I believe he goes into a Rummagem for this turn. So my Aphros would have stayed on board, would have drawn me another 2 cards, potentially get me into more pieces, would have helped. So there's the Rummagem, searches Viserys. My board's pretty much cleared. It's going to be a little bit rough going from here, but I believe I have a Glauby in hand ready to go. I just need to find a way to stick board, get the Glauby in play, put a bag of wins on it for the start. I'd rather go to Majesea, put a bag of wins on it, go from there. He Ambrosias, heals up some spirits. I'm pretty much like just on the back foot. Again, my deck's super expensive and I'm already down half my spirits roughly. Not a good spot to be in, but I still see a way around it where I get the Majesea out so I can get over Rabbit, etc. He can't punch into it. He already used a bunch of Earthquakes, so I go for the Tad Puff. On Tad Puff special cast, he instantly Gorgons it. Doesn't even let me Nexus my Poseidon to this Tad Puff, but it's a special cast. I still have a Foamy to play, so I'm going to play a Foamy in defense here. His board's empty, and I pass turn. So then, alright, he plays Viserys. He can get over my Foamy with Viserys. He can potentially crash over with his Rumbergem into the Tadpuff, but I'll be able to search out a Sluggle, regen spirits, and then try to go for the Ascension again. He sets one this turn. He forgets that he set that Gorgons this turn. I forgot it too. I'm going to pause here for a second. So this Gorgons is going to shut off my Foamy. He set it this turn. We both didn't realize he set this turn. There was actually a large gap between him setting it and playing it because we were having a good conversation, good casual game, super fun game, like awesome fun time. Like it was a really fun just conversation while we were playing. So we both missed it, but he played a Gorgons when he shouldn't have been able to, which turns off my Foamy, allowing basically I'm like in my head I'm thinking, oh, I didn't calculate for a Foamy getting Gorgons there, and then I realized now reviewing the footage that yeah, he shouldn't have been able to Gorgons Foamy. I should have been able to get a Sluggle out or another Foamy, which probably would have been Sluggle to regen here. Meaning I would still have board state going into this turn, giving me more options into this turn to try to ascend into the Majesea I was trying to go for. It's unfortunate, but that's the breaks. So instead of potentially winning this game, I will go ahead, since that is a crazy board state, saying I lost it. There's a shot at me possibly winning it, because here I could have had a Sluggle in play. He would have had a Gorgons face down. He would have to kind of preemptively hit the Sluggle with the Gorgons before I could send into it. But instead, I'm basically going into an Elechick. I'm lower on spirits than I should have been. I got nothing really going for me here. I misenchant the Elechick with Wind. I'm super low in spirits. I don't have the right spirits I need for Trident here, so I can't attack over a Viserys. So I'm hoping the play I'm making here is I play a misenchanted Trident. I have an Altar face down. The Trident's not activated, but it's empowering my Elechick. The hope is that he doesn't re-enchant his currently defense position Viserys with an Earth, because that would then mean I could Altar the Earth Enchanted Viserys to defense, so it can't attack, and then his attack position Viserys would be the Water Enchanted one with 5 attack. I could then attack over it with my Elechick and potentially get the game from there. It was a very risky play, but it's the only play I had. Again, I should have had some more spirits in my spirit deck, which would have made it that I wouldn't have to misenchant the Elechick here, which would have given me the option to potentially, attack over the Gorgons. If he doesn't Gorgons me, I would have the Sluggle as well and play. Like, a lot would have been different. It's unfortunate, but this is the best play I had for the game state that we were agreeing upon, basically. So Elechick goes over Rumbergem for 1 damage, and again, I'm setting up to properly enchant with a Nexus the Trident, hoping that he attacks it with the 6 attack Viserys and doesn't enchant his misenchanted Viserys that has 4 attack. But he decides to just go for the proper enchant on the Viserys here. He adds an Earth to it, putting both of the Viseryses at 6, stopping my genius strategy from possibly happening. It is what it is. It definitely was his best play here. Earthbeaters is notorious for just being strong attacking, and that's basically where the game's going to end. He's going to attack over my Elechick, and I'm going to Altar 1 into defense, pump up my Elechick, but then he can just crash into my Elechick. He takes 1, but I lose all my board state except for a Poseidon. I don't run Ambrosias, so I got nothing after this game. This is going to be a game loss for me. It could have been way different, but hey, I missed it in the moment, but that is going to make me go 1-3, and the next game is going to be quite short. Not that the game was short, the game was actually quite long, but there's not much to say about the next one, but I do end up 2-3 in this tournament, and I really think Game 5 is hilarious. Like, it's exactly what I wanted out of the deck, so let's just jump into the last game, and then we'll get to the wrap-up. Game 5, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. You probably see how short this is, because I open the God Hand. Well, a hand with a lot of gods. So I opened Double Hephaestus, Poseidon, Tadpuff, Majesea, meaning I used Double Hephaestus off the rip, found both my artifacts. I'm just throwing cards everywhere. I'm just so excited. Like, I'm freaking out. Like, I should have hit my audio from here, but I'm cracking. I'm apologizing to my opponent. I'm so sorry. This is the first time this has happened this tournament. I've only had this happen a couple times in playtesting. Just the great, awesome, perfect hand. Just drop Majesea into play, double artifact. I got to go first for it, like everything lined up, and I'm just blown away. Like I'm so excited. And then I'm gonna speed it up here, but basically, my opponent was like, "Oh, I have no way to out this. I have no rune removal in my deck at all." I'm like, "Wait, do you have Vertaku?" It's like, "Yeah, okay, but how am I gonna get your thing in defense?" Well, do you run Sorlet? Yeah. So I was kind of coaching him how to beat my own deck, and he basically had to get a Foamy to float into Vertakua, to then follow up with a Sorlet cast to turn Majesea into defense and attack Vertakua, which could potentially help. Now, the first Foamy he got, I was able to Gorgons, which is awesome. And then from there on, I had nothing. So if he was able to pull off that Foamy Sorlet play, I would be dead in the water. So yeah, there was a chance that he had to win, but unfortunately, again, this is like the Exodia combo. He stalled for a long time. This game went for like 15 minutes, even on that turn 1 play. Because again, I'm going to pause this here. When you do this Majesea combo turn 1, you end up with no cards in hand, no extra protection. Your opponent plays any rune removal, and then answers your this amazing combo can be answered by literally Equalinks Demeter into an Earthquake, P-Gust into Earthquake, Thunderstorm into Earthquake, Thunderstorm into Laurels, replaces the Earthquake with Laurels basically. And that's the fragility of this combo, why it's not actually good, but man, it did well. Let's just jump into the quick wrap up at the end here, and I'll talk about the deck at length and go from there. So here we are at the end of all these games. It's a shame. I could have gone 3-2. I could have gone 3-2 with this deck. It was a possibility against game 4 there, where he played the Gorgons when he wasn't allowed to. We were both just having a great time. That's the best part. I had so much fun playing this deck. This deck I wasn't here to win with this deck. I was here to combo off, spook some people, have some fun. It stinks that the people I played against were so good at the game. I wanted to get some free wins. I mean, that early Jack game, Jack, his only victory today surprisingly was against me in this deck, which was a very close game to begin with. Cerebro did pretty well. He ended up topping, and because the only person that I played against topped was Cerebro, if I happened to go 3-2 off that game 4, because of strength of schedule, I would have come 9th or 10th. I didn't check. After I saw Jai's strength schedule, I'm like, okay, I wouldn't have top cut, which is unfortunate, but there was a chance that maybe things would have been different. Maybe I would have played Jai and beat her and got that strength. I don't know. But this is where I ended up. The deck is insanely fun to play. It's super consistent at doing one thing and one thing only. That's getting Majesea into play. As long as your opponent doesn't have Poison Tipped Arrow, Gorgon's Gaze, Equalinks and Demeter. Like, you saw the gambit. You saw every counter in the meta to this deck. Now against something like Water Wind, it's almost a sure win because they don't have direct removal. Against even Thunder Nexus, a lot of Thunder Nexus lists don't run any hard rune removal. Some of them run Thunderstorm. But the ones that don't, this is a free win against because they have no way to deal with Majesea once you pump it out. So I was hoping to play against Thunder Nexus and go first and just get the Majesea out right away and laugh my way to victory through Thunder Nexus. Try to hopefully get through Earth Beaters, which is definitely a way better deck at fighting this, and dodge basically any burn decks, which the one burn deck I did play against, or maybe it wasn't even a burn deck, but the only fire deck I played against, I did play around the Eruption the whole time, which slowed my victory, but I still won because of my opponent's poor draws. So ultimately, yeah, this deck's not great. I wanted to play a water deck so I could play Aphros. I wanted to play a turbo deck so that Aphros gets as much use as possible. And this Majasea Turbo Ramp is where it ended. So that is the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to know more about the deck, feel free to hit me up on Discord. I'm always around. And I hope you enjoyed the matches. And one last thing to say. This deck also did pretty well because I think there was only 2 games where I didn't open with Poseidon in hand. And Poseidon is probably the most important piece of the deck. Like, yeah, Aphros is important. Yeah, Tap Puff's important. But without Poseidon, you can't enable anything. So I did have to get a little lucky with my draws. So 2 games I didn't open Poseidon. That's probably about average. I think I actually opened Poseidon in my hand slightly above average on chance. I think it's like a 20 or 40% chance, something like that, to open one specific card in your hand. And Poseidon plus basically any card in my deck starts comboing. So I definitely got a little bit lucky as far as my draws went. I got extremely unlucky as far as my dice rolling went, where I only got to go first 2 games out of my 3. My opponents kept rolling nat 20s against me. I rolled a nat 1 in the first game. Like, that was frustrating. I didn't get to go first, and this deck needs to go first. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys appreciate it. Like and subscribe if somehow you made it through this like hour-long video, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.